August Siri here, and welcome to a song skeleton presentation. And as I go through my content each week with my music endeavors, be it studio to stage, out live with other performers, or when I'm on bass guitar, or my solo bass performances, be it jazz, bass, prog rock, or whatever, workshops, etc. All my music stuff. I do include song skeletons sometimes because basically they are like almost songs without any lyrics, so it'd just be instrumental stuff. And I figured that's about all I've got for you this afternoon. So this is Friday, so I hope everybody has a good, safe weekend. Getting closer to spring here in the Northeast, USA. For those of you who don't know me, I'm August Siri, original hard rock artist from Northern Vermont, USA. National award-winning bass player and record deal offered from Atlantic Records subsidiary years ago. 5 pro albums with bands, 5 solo albums with home studio, so 10 pro albums basically. Played over 4,500 shows. That's out in front of people for money. For those of you who don't know, what professional means. And I guess that's about it. I'm going to get into the music here without too much dialogue today. And these are basically almost songs that I've done this for years on and off, called song skeletons. And it's really, they're like in process, like they can become songs or not, or I will dissect, excision sections out to use them in other songs and stuff like that. So you may hear some familiar chord patterns from some of my other songs because these are basically not in line with everything I'm doing. So this is just stuff that's there, and it's just something kind of fun to present once in a while. I don't do these all the time. But song skeletons are fun because it's just, there's no expectations for me anyways, that, where they're going to be complete product, because they're not finished product. They're not copywritten yet because I don't have lyrics or anything. So I basically go through some different patterns, some different arrangements that I probably will be using. Song skeletons are almost songs, so they're getting closer to that finished point is really all that means. I guess that's about it. I want to stay on topic here, and we're going to get going onto the Song Skeleton Set 2026. Yes. This will become a conversion reshare like most of my content does. I don't leave them in live format because they get deleted by the platform after 30 days. Why, I have no idea. But my YouTube channel, Hard Rock Vermont, if you want to go out and check my content on there, it's basically the same thing you see on this platform, FB Live. I don't share everything over there that I produce here, but a lot of it's out there. You'll see it. And on my old YouTube channel as well that I don't have access to anymore. That's Bass Lightning 666. And then my newer one, a few years ago, I started a new channel, Hard Rock Vermont. And then that's when I started this page as well, restarted because my old page, Bass Lightning, I don't have access to anymore. So it's just floating around out there forever, as some of you can, or most of you can probably relate to that kind of thing. Kind of bogus when it happens because you put years of your time into something and then it's just ridiculous. But it happens. This is the modern world, oops. This is the modern world that we're all connected to via the internet. So, I just turned the wrong peg here, flapping my yap. That's pretty close, so I share some of this stuff over to YouTube, but, so like I said, this is not finished product. It's not like in performance mode for my, sound stage or for MP3s or anything like that. It's just fun. Thanks for coming along for the ride today, folks, and let's get it going, shall we? We shall. for that song skeleton. Again, these are just really just bits and pieces, like almost songs. That's why I did like, 4 or 5 different guitar solo sections in there. Obviously in the finished piece, that probably wouldn't be that extensive on the guitar solo section. I'm just not really sure, which solo is going to sit in there and fit the song. That's why I will kind of noodle around a little bit. Did some mode switching because I was actually soloing in A minor. And as you could hear, I actually went into some Ionian in there and, just some various configurations, combinations. That's a big thing as to what I think is going to work, and that's really what Song Skeletons is all about. And molding and shaping. I've done molding and shaping workshops that are similar to this. It's just that molding and shaping is the first step, sculpting the parts, writing, creating, coming up with the patterns, all that. That's done before this stage. This is like stage 2. Stage 1 is mold and shape. Stage 2 is song skeletons. And stage 3 is the final step in creating a song, because that's when I add the lyrics, guitar leads, bass parts, drum parts, whatever. Everything gets put together. And when I reach stage 3 after song skeletons, it gets to stage 3, then it's a complete song. That's when I decide, okay, am I going to put this through copyright process? And, am I going to release it on soundstage or just a sit-down session, virtual stage? It'll be virtual stage final product after it gets to step 3, basically. That's all that really means. Everybody has their own ways of doing things. That's how I've done it, like, forever. So, as you can see, it's just it's not that, what I'm doing in concept is any different than other artists out there in history have done. It's just that I put my own spin on it. I like to think I've developed my own style over the years, on guitar and bass and drums. Actually, I'm an accomplished drummer as well. It's just bass is my soapbox. I'm a professional bass player. There's a lot of professional bass players that play guitar. Billy Sheehan, he has a guitar collection. He plays guitar. You just don't see it because his bass work outshines everything else that he does. So, and other art. That's just one example. There's other artists as well that do that as well. I'm sure. Richie Sambora plays bass. I'm sure. All guitar players play bass to some degree. Maybe in their own home studio recordings, like in this environment, and just to play their own bass parts to track their own music, separate from whatever project they're in usually, and that's been going on for decades, since the Electric Instruments, there are a lot of guitar players that play bass. There are a lot of bass players that play guitar, that's just, it's just, there's nothing wrong with that. You should play more than one instrument, I think. If you want to really show, let's see here. All right, look at this. Let me see. It looks like, yeah. All right. I'm doing a vanity check just to make sure I don't have no bed hair sticky sticking out the side like this. It's not a tumor. Yeah, so that's really the process I use, man. It's not rocket science, you know what I'm saying? It's just learning, getting proficient on your instrument. I could do this, out professionally. I could be a guitarist, you know what I'm saying? I've said this 1,000 times in my other video content. But, again, it's that time factor. What do I want to invest my time into, I have a set list of, it has to be at least 100 songs that I can handle on guitar and vocals and actually market in this region. So they're dance rock classics and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Recognizable classic standards. Most of them. Some of them are a little bit of my 90s stuff that I like, but for the most part, it's classic rock, And there's songs I can handle vocally. If I'm doing the vocal part and guitar part, obviously I'm looking at the vocals first. Okay, is that out of my range? Is it not? Can I sing this? And once I figure out, okay, it's not out of my range. I'm talking about cover songs. My original stuff, it's all in my range. I'm not going to write stuff that's out of my range and try to do it and then sound like a strained cat, you know. We don't want that strangled cat thing, you know. So that's the same way I approach cover song music. Really is what can I handle on vocals? Number one, can I sing it and play it with the timing of it? If the guitar line is too much movement, it's harder. Just like with bass lines, if I'm doing bass and vocals, it's the same thing. Why like rockabilly bass lines and stuff are hard to do because they're all over the neck, and to do that and sing, that's just I'm sorry, the walk and chew gum thing. You know, if I'm just playing the bass part, I'm fine with pretty much anything out there. Guitar is similar. It's like I know that there's a lot of stuff I can do on guitar that I'm not even showing in my videos, but I just don't put the time in to cement the stuff because any time I spend on guitar, I'm usually writing, you know. That's really it right there, you know. But thank you all for joining me today, this afternoon here, and we'll get going on the next piece. Again, these are song skeletons, you know. I'm not like making up excuses and saying, okay, well, if it comes out not very good, then, you know, there's an excuse. I don't make excuses for anything. I'm my own worst critic, folks, you know. I just play, do my thing. I be the best me I can be. But I'm just saying in terms of concept and method, these are not really complete 100%. You know, they're not there yet. Step 2, as I explained earlier, in my writing. That's how I do my songwriting. However you do your stuff is your thing. And I'm not a qualified teacher. You know, I don't have a music degree. I've got 5 years of college in business communications, not music. You know, I was a liberal arts minor, you know, so, but I do have 40 plus years of professional experience actually out in front of people live. So there's that on bass guitar and vocals, of course, but, I just enjoy my guitar work and I enjoy bringing this stuff to you all. This is the modern world. It is a video world, which is good in some ways and bad in others. You know, like everything gets recorded. Like I really want to see, you know, like people dancing in their kitchen. Not really. You know, that TikTok stuff. It's just, I know there's a lot more to TikTok than that, but that's why I just stay on this platform and YouTube, and that's about it. I really don't care about some girl with her mother down in New Mexico dancing in her living room, you know, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Do I really care about that? Not really. But other people do out there. So, you know, do whatever content you feel is represents you as a person out online with the usual filters of you're responsible for your content. So that's why I have disclaimers. I don't allow certain things on my social media. I've had to get rid of a lot of people for that over the years, you know. Some people I know in the real world, other people not, but it's just unfortunate, you know, but this is the modern world, and, you know, you've got everybody wandering around on the planet with smartphones, blatting out and hiding behind screens and with no repercussion, you know, so that's why they had the block feature, right, folks? I keep the people who actually appreciate my work and are respectful, and I might not be able to please everyone, but they can still respect me as an artist without necessarily liking my music and their own personal taste. I understand that. You can't please everyone. You know, I go for like a most people thing, you know. As long as I can please like 85 to 90% out there, I'm good. And I have in spades over and over again for years. So I'm not worried about the few, you know, blah, 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 because then I just get rid of them because I know what sounds good. I don't need validation or justification by anyone, you know. But, you know, I try to keep my environment positive here. That's why I don't allow certain things, you know, on here, like mouthy people or over-opinionated morons who don't really know what they're talking about. They just think they do. People like that, you know. And they're out there everywhere. All right, let's see. Let's get on with the next song, shall we? Yes, we shall. Here we go. Well, we're cruising through the song skeleton set here. I got a little bit more to present. So in that one, that piece there, written in F sharp major, actually. We've got basically 4 different possibilities and solos that I have in there, and that's why I was kind of rotating back and forth through the different. And that's the same thing I did with the last piece, and the other stuff in song skeleton mode was basically it's I'm rotating around, and that's why you'd see me change positions and then stop and just go into something else, or just continue on and figure out the other parts of it, because I really don't have the solos worked out at this point. Nothing cemented, as I said, song skeletons. So you can see me changing positions. I haven't tried, not sure if I wanted to do a counterpoint thing in there with that. So, after I get the solo cemented in there, then it'll be basically the same, or, the same thing as every other piece I've ever written, is that will be the solo, and that's the one I play to it every time. But, we're not there yet in this stage. Just remember, this is step 2 song skeleton, so I don't really have everything articulated and cemented in. Some things, maybe some parts, some scales, certain sound accents and things like that may be cemented or may not be at this point. I don't know. It depends on what sounds good and what works. Some of that solo sounded really good. Other parts of it I would probably not do in the final version, when it becomes a song. But you have to kind of hash that out in some version of your song skeleton mode, whatever it is you do, because everything just doesn't come out and it's done. There is a process to all of this stuff, at least for me, and when I'm creating and writing, and that's what you're seeing right here in fruition, and when I get the vocals ready for that and everything's put together, then you'll see some version of these song skeletons come out on my soundstage, or just sit down virtual stage session like this. Seems to be easier to do this because of volume levels. When I'm over on the soundstage, everything's louder, and I can't hear the vocals as well because I haven't revamped my vocal system here yet, which I mentioned before I will be doing at some point. I just haven't done it yet this season. But, just a small PA. It doesn't have to be anything super powerful or whatever, just something like a Harbinger 210 with a unpowered board, powered speakers. As long as it has reverb, we're good. Something like that, it doesn't have to be a QSC $3,000, deluxe system. I don't need that here, I'll figure something out what'll work for, as far as, it'd be nice if I get 2, because then I can do the stereo thing where you've got vocals coming from both sides, and I still don't need to go that loud, because remember, I can't go that loud in here without the recording sounding like crap. So, it's so yeah, I'll figure something out with that in the future. But it seems to be easier to do these virtual stage sit-down sessions in the old virtual stage location, which is here, for now, at least, because I can do it at a lower volume level. That's really what it's all about. It's not, I prefer a soundstage all the time, but it's just easier to do it here because I can become more of an intimate, quieter, well, if you want to call this quiet, but quiet for me. So, sometimes I'll just play around with some chord patterns like that, and, I'll see what comes out in the mix, because, when I'm in the creative process, which is most of the time here, I need to search for those different tonal sonic areas that work for the feel. So if it's a heavy groove song, or if it's a heavy power chord song, or if it's more melodic and less chunka and more, chimey melodic stuff with open position chords, which this thing is the king with that type of sound. Octane. Yeah, that's right. Octane. I'll kiss him. And I'm not embarrassed to kiss my guitar. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, that's really about it. I mean, it's the same thing every time, but with different ideas, basically. Same methods that have worked for me for years. So we're going to do, let's see what we got here for time. So I'll do one more piece, and then I'm probably going to close you all out for today, because I've got to head out. I have other things to do. So thank you for joining me today. I am August Siri. I'll basically do this piece, close you all out, and say goodbye. I may not say it. I may just play it. I'll play it goodbye. How about that? Thanks for joining me today, folks. All right, that's not it. That's it, but it's too loud.